So, Treasure Island, one of those books that the author writes a little like Joe Marchwood's subsequent submissions to a periodical publisher with a put-together book that comes out later. Robert Louis Stevenson was the author for this book. He was a smart guy, but never with strong white blood cells. Get it? Anyway, one might say that's the reason he was such a wild card. Perhaps it was his alter reality that distracted him from his failing body. He was the kind of man who knew he was genius, yet went around falling for prostitutes. But then Fanny Osborne was the different one. Henceforth, he married that girl, though his parents were not that happy. He's got a new wife, 10 years older, no support, and a level of poverty that all true artists go through. So what does he do? Tell a story to his new stepson and have an epiphany. Well, long story short.
Oh, this has gotta be the right life, man. My mind is on fire tonight. He's gonna sleep so good tonight. Good night, man. Oh, got that story that I told that night. It would make something good to write. I could really make it shine bright. A good ride.
But like any writer, he faced hard response, especially since our beloved Bobby was a new figure of romanticism.
See, he wrote stuff that made people think of new ideas. Fantastical adventure was something not that common, and different people had different things to say about it.
A writer can please everyone. True sad story. So let's look at some of this.
Have you ever given a presentation in class and afterwards been given a few compliments, a few criticisms? Yeah, that is the Dial's review of Treasure Island. The Dial acknowledged Robert Louis Stevenson's work as inventful and claimed it will be accepted and well-liked by boys. Maybe that's a bad thing. It is neither dignified nor edifying. They thought Robert Louis Stevenson's work wasn't wholesome enough to form our next generation.
That's it. You've got to face the glamour for reality, not this.
2 words. Sass alert.
I'm honestly not sure if they meant it that way. They said a couple of nice things.
Like what?
He said if you're dreaming of adventure, then this is definitely your book.
He also said it would do nothing for the reader's thinking or the author's reputation. Is that not rude?
Said it was original and powerful.
And that's it. Come on, this guy's pretty blunt. And TBH, I think he was right. A person dies a chapter, I swear, and their grammar, it's slightly pathetic.
They're pirates. It's realistic.
What's realistic about pirates? Please, tell me.
Do you know the definition of flattery? Excessive and insincere praise, especially that given to further one's own interests. This is something I'm quite sure our next critic was familiar with. W.E. Henley had no criticism for Mr. Stevenson and thought his work solely genius and capturing, making you feel like you're in a whole other reality.
When I read a book that takes me places, mainly books with boys' adventures filled with all this treasure. Buried treasure, grand romance, I think about a hero, genius work. His narration can be odd yet thrilling, a novel masterpiece that old and young boys all can love. Illustrated pointedly with word choice and extensive role complexion.
I feel like Henley here was the teacher's pet.
I feel like he was the only honest one. I mean, come on. Everyone else had to spice and round their critiques with attack just to keep their daunting rep.
Or maybe the book wasn't 100% perfect. So this next guy, life was pretty depressing for him. Everyone's heard of Virginia Woolf.
Guilty.
Yes, ma'am, but no one knows where she got her surname from.
Mr. Woolf.
Leonard Woolf, who never seemed quite satisfied with his success, was a writer in his wife's shadow, and a widower with that same wife that committed suicide.
He wrote this review?
Let's see.
This man just couldn't write lest he copied someone's better work. Pretentious man uptight, wrote plain truth at best when he dropped framework.
Okay, this is too depressing. I had to stop him early.
He said that Stevenson was only good at making his work sound good at afar. He's saying that when you strip it down, it's nothing that impressive.
I feel like that was his way of impersonating Jim. The scrambled, many descriptive words in a sentence, illustrious drawings of everything that happened to him was the way that Jim communicated how he really enjoyed what he was telling us about.
I think this is really understandable for us in modern times. It doesn't seem overly eloquent to me, and it was written in a much more sophisticated time. If you've ever seen Frozen, you might understand this next critic just a little bit better. Basically, everyone is trying to be Elsa. Mysterious, powerful, full of pros and cons. Everyone is off playing Snow Queen. We have no Anna. The yin's yang, a perfect symbol of innocence and appreciation. The world needs Annas. Luckily, G.K. Chesterton has agreed to play the part. He was able to find all the lovely metaphoric positives in a book about law-breaking, selfish, treasure-seeking pirates. It's really quite a wonderful talent.
This book is simple, nice, and sweet. I didn't know they wrote that anymore. In absence of philosophy, abstract. I've known Robert to be put down. Cruel critics call him bland. Really, just the opposite is true. He's got an actual sense of humor. Know how overdone. Wow, am I so jealous of his strength. 'Cause for the first time in forever, there's a writer who understands that when childhood is severed, you go back on written path. Demarcations between boy and child, he saw and wrote for boy, and for the first time in forever, the boy can really read.
That really warmed my heart.
I always liked Elsa more. She was honest, like, you do you.
Anna was honest too. She just had a more positive self.
No. It's like Little Orphan Annie, really. No one can be that happy and real.
When reading Treasure Island, you may be thinking how crazy old it is. It's from like 1850. But many claim that Stevenson was decades ahead of his time in writing. Like, that's still a century behind us. But we must recognize Stevenson's achievement somewhat. He actually had a really close pal named Henry James, who was a big believer in Stevenson's futuristic style. Luckily, he found Treasure Island positively great. He thought it was edgy, fresh, and stylish.
Somebody once told me how to read a story was to understand the man that you read. Robert writes with such a charm that you sense with no alarm in the form of a cheerful mood you're spoon-fed. Well, the author and the reader get inspired with feelers. You get in the plot real true with Wheeler. If honest time is cunning fun, you think he'd brag but he wrote it none. A.S. goodbye between him and me, girl, with every line that I see. You never know he was an old guy, not the Jim of Bimbo.
I'm 87% sure Mr. James here was sugarcoating it. Like, they were friends. James can't publish negative feedback on his pal's work. That's not right.
I think he explained it pretty decently. You can't deny the emotional connection you feel when reading this book.
Yeah, I can.
How many times have you been chilling in class with a teacher lecturing and you're not even paying attention? Like, they're right there in front of you and you can't find the tiniest bit of interest in what they're saying. This embodies George Moore's opinion of Treasure Island. Moore saw the story as incohesive and a series of individual events which were moderately thrilling, but never a book altogether.
Treasure Island, you started out droll, then you stayed to be only amusing. Yeah, is this a book? You dedicated in your boredom, fractured spiels that spiral downward. Yeah, this ain't a book. And I wish I could commend you on how you always had me hooked, but that's no excuse for mess. Is this your book? All I see is your life's worth on down the drain. Yeah, when you're past, will we think
That was pretty intense.
Finally, somebody gets it. I thought I was the only one.
The only one who what? Refuses to appreciate the work that brought the world the modern pirate stereotype? The work which lasted more than a century and a half? The work whose originality set the foundation for much of modern nautical slang? I sure hope you're the only one.
Take a chill pill. I'm just saying it's a little like a Monet painting, okay? From far, far away, but a hot mess up close.
That's the opposite of what Moore thought.
Yeah, guess I'm the only one. So the Pall Mall Gazette was an ambitious project that turned into a newspaper staple for about 20 years at the time of this review.
They had some pretty great guest star writers. I mean, George Bernard Shaw, Oscar Wilde.
So their opinions on Robbie here will be pretty legitimate. They've had some pretty decent practice saying.
If not, society only exists as a mental concept. In the real world, there are only individuals.
You can read this book and just relax. Unique piece that no one can collapse. Young boy's eyes to have, an easy read to have. Only Rob could write this book. Develop roles and boyish fun of other books. This gets looks, fluent and colloquial. You've got the gift of a writer, Robert. Come on, Treasure Island. Look what they're saying. What do you think of this? Hear them. Some have worse things to say, but good outweighs bad, and we think you're right, just right.
Yeah! Yeah, okay, that one nailed it.
Nailed it.
Down to earth, remarkably relatable for an adventure,
Serious showcase of romantic talents, really great perspective read.
and everything explained just enough as much in context as out.
That's Treasure Island.
I'm Mila.
I'm Abby.
Look below for discussion questions.